Black women have often been the backbone of their families, but being at the intersection of race and gender discrimination in the workforce has taken a serious toll on their finances. According to a 2015 Pew Study, Black women as a group have lower earnings than women or men of any other racial cohort. With this in mind, and inspired by Dr. MLK Jr.'s mission to alleviate racial and economic injustice, the nonprofit Give Directly and the Georgia Resilience and Opportunity Fund have teamed up to launch a cutting-edge initiative. It's called In Her Hands and directed at those most affected by financial insecurity. Offering an average of $850 per month, when it launches in 2022, it will be the largest guaranteed income program supporting Black women in the United States. Here to talk about the program In Her Hands and the importance of racial and economic justice is the Georgia Resilience and Opportunity Fund Executive Director, Hope Wollensack. Hope, it is good to see you. Talk to me about this program. How will your guaranteed income program work, and how is it different than, say, other kinds of public assistance?
Yeah, thanks for having us. So this guaranteed income program is going to put cash directly in the hands of some of folks who are most impacted by gender and racial inequality in this country. So we're focusing unabashedly on Black women and focusing, knowing that cash in the hands of women means greater economic stability, not only for themselves, but for their families. What we've seen is that Black women are right at the intersection of racial and gender inequality and most impacted by pervasive economic instability. And so this program provides greater choice, agency, freedom. It is by placing cash in the hands of folks, we hope that it's also giving greater agency over one's future in their hands and the flexibility to pursue that in the way that's best for the individual.
Why, some would ask the question, I think I know the answer, but why focus on Black women specifically? And how does someone become eligible for the program?
Great question. So this program was a recommendation of a task force convened by Atlanta City Council member Amir Faroqi that convened during 2020. And as if the trends over the past several hundred years were not enough, certainly the trends in 2020 amplified what we already knew, that there are oftentimes folks who are facing really harsh economic insecurity. And so that task force asked about the root causes of economic insecurity. And what we quickly found was that Black women are facing some of the harshest economic insecurity in the Old Fourth Ward neighborhood, which is rooted in Dr. King's legacy. It's where he's born. It's where he pastored Ebenezer Baptist Church and advocated for guaranteed income, but also across our state of Georgia and really across the country, these trends, as you mentioned, as we opened. And so this recommendation really came from a coalition of community members thinking about, listen, we've tried a lot of approaches to uproot economic insecurity. What if we attacked the problem, as King said, directly through a guaranteed income? And so that's how this program came to be. And the focus on Black women was really driven by community members ourselves and thinking about what would actually change the status quo, not just with a single program, but sort of change our view of why economic insecurity exists in the first place. It's highly related. It's incredibly related to gender, and it's incredibly related to race. And so those things need to be, justice on those things needs to be at the forefront of this work. Folks
Now,
will be eligible for the program.
Go ahead, Hope.
My apologies. Folks will be eligible for the program based on living in certain geographies. In Georgia, we're going to be working across the state with a launch site in the Old Fourth Ward, with more details to come in early 2022.
Now, one of the things that I read was that the program didn't include financial literacy training. Some would argue that in addition to having direct access to capital, all communities, not just Black folk, we're not pathological, right? But all communities need access to financial literacy so that we can make good choices with the financial access that we gain. Is there a reason why that's not part of the program?
A core tenet of what we heard from community members was that budgeting or sort of basic financial literacy was actually not a need for for members of these communities. So when we asked folks what they needed, they told us sort of it is very difficult to budget or it is very difficult to make these choices about your financial future when your balance sheet is negative month after month. And so we're hoping that the goal of this and what evident research shows is that having a bit of a financial buffer, like a guaranteed income, helps one to make better and longer term financial decisions. And of course, certainly in the infrastructure, there are lots of different resource providers who provide sort of financial coaching or helping people achieve their goals. But we know that sort of the core issue to wealth decelerators and the core issue to making those sort of long-term financial planning goals is actually just a shortage of cash month after month makes it impossible to do so. And lots of the women we spoke to in the community are actually master budgeters. They're masters at making it work and have been really resilient and resourceful beyond sometimes what even should be required of a person to provide for their basic needs. So that was not what we heard from community members themselves. And then, of course, there are resources across the city that we're happy to partner with and direct folks to, should that be in need of program participants.
Yeah, nobody has been able to make a little bit turn into a lot. Nobody has been able to feed, clothe, and shelter themselves when the month lasts longer than their money than Black folk, and particularly Black women. So I have no doubt that when given the access and the resources, we'll work out the budget part. We just need the money to budget. But you said something else that was interesting to me, which was about your program being responsive to the community's needs, that you said that's not what they needed, that's not what they asked for. So many policy decisions are made without the involvement of the people. How important was it for you to engage the community when deciding how to develop a set of programmatic options that made sense for them and that you would ultimately implement?
You hit it right on the head. Incredibly important. The inception of this work really started with a community task force of 28 organizations and community members who know their needs and know the community. And so really this task force was looking into those root causes of economic insecurity and talking to, not only on the task force itself, but talking to members of the community, having genuine and sincere conversations with folks, asking what people need and then following up with it and sort of believing folks. And so it was an incredibly important part of it. Any program in and of itself is going to have limited effectiveness. It's only going to have a certain number of participants. It's only going to have a certain number of reach. We're really proud that this is one of the largest guaranteed income programs in the country and that it's here in Georgia and it's focusing on Black women. But really what we want to see is a new way that policies are developed that changes the paradigm and the power structure and puts impacted communities and those experiencing the issues firsthand or close to it in the driver's seat around those policies, and that their voices are elevated in those policy discussions. And I think that's how we actually begin to get this systematic change and systematically uprooting these racial and gender disparities that exist. And that only happens by inverting that power dynamic.
Hope, I gotta run, but I gotta ask you real quick. I mean, when I hear in her hands, the first thing that goes off in my mind is universal basic income. Is this a step in that direction?
I mean, it could be. I think that guaranteed income and universal basic income are a little bit different from one another. Guaranteed income is rooted in the Black tradition. Of course, Dr. Martin Luther King was an early advocate, the Black Panther Party, early advocates of a guaranteed income. And guaranteed income tends to have more of a focus on specific communities and providing, starting with basically those who are most impacted by the status quo and designing policy around those folks first. And so it could be a stepping stone, I think, to a universal basic income, but the intention behind guaranteed income is a little bit more specific, and I think that it focuses on centering the experiences of those who've been pushed to the margins for way too long. So we hope that this is a step towards a more just and equitable economy that thrives and works for everyone, and we do that by centering Black women. And when Black women thrive, really our communities can thrive. So there are a suite of policies we think that could help get us there.
Amen. Hope, thank you so much for stopping by to talk about this amazing program. If there's any way we can support your Black News Tonight, we'll be here for you.